May 30th, 1937. Warm weather, clear skies. The perfect Sunday for a picnic to celebrate Memorial Day. Families gathered to enjoy the holiday, but in the south side of Chicago, workers of Republic Steel were gathering for a very different reason. Little did they know that the peaceful picket they had planned would soon turn into one of the bloodiest labor battles in U.S. history. In the early 1900s, the United States steel industry was booming. Large corporations dominated the industry, making enormous profits. However, workers had low pay, long hours, and harsh working conditions, with little say in their workplace. In order to further reforms, unions participated in protests and strikes. In 1919, steel workers held a strike against the U.S. Steel Corporation for a union contract. Despite mistreatment from police, newspapers blamed workers for the conflict. As a result, the public viewed the workers as radicals, and the strike brought forth no reform. Situations improved on July 5, 1935. The Wagner Act was passed, laying a foundation for union rights. Steel workers hoped for change, but corporations were intractable. In 1936, many steel workers joined the Steel Workers Organizing Committee, or SWOC. The increased pressure on companies caused U.S. Steel to accede. In early 1937, the company agreed to give workers better conditions and a union contract. Shortly after, Little Steel gave workers the same benefits, but refused to sign a contract with the SWOC. Republic Steel chairman Tom Girdler believed a surrender to the CIO was a bad thing for our company's employees, for the United States of America. We were determined to fight. Thus began the Little Steel Strike of 1937. On May 26th, strikes, organized by the SWOC, spread across the country, notably in Ohio, Pittsburgh, and Chicago. Unlike other plants, the Republic Steel plant in Chicago remained open during the strike. On May 30th, 1937, workers of Republic Steel gathered for a civilized demonstration that quickly turned into a violent encounter between the protesters and Chicago policemen. Later known as the Memorial Day Massacre, the strike attracted widespread controversy due to its unprecedented media attention and photographic documentation. Caused by an exchange of weapons for protection between policemen and the corporation, the strike eventually changed public views about the workers and sparked an exploration in using the power of media and photographic documentation to spread the truth. On Sunday morning, after a mass gathering at Sam's Place, the union headquarters, workers headed to the Republic Steel plant for a peaceful picket, hoping to finally persuade corporations for a union contract. As workers moved to surround the building, they encountered the Chicago police force, who had been waiting for their arrival. When protesters refused to disband, cops began arresting them. Confusion followed as strikers encountered extreme violence. Police, armed with revolvers and clubs, threw tear gas bombs into the crowd. Within 15 seconds, more than 200 shots were fired blindly at strikers. As civilians attempted to run away from the violence, police beat many innocents, with no regard for human life. Molly West, a young supporter, recalled a policeman yelling, "Get off the field or I'll put a bullet in your back." Police ruthlessly shot Nicholas, an 11-year-old boy, in the foot and an infant in the arm. The dead and injured were tossed into wagons. The strikers, requiring immediate medical attention, did not receive it. When the confusion was over, 10 people, only 2 of them workers, were left dead, one of them a 17-year-old boy. Dozens more were severely maimed. Although the workers had encountered violence, bloodshed, and mistreatment, changes were yet to come. In the days that followed, the press wrote an overwhelming number of articles about the encounter, as workers were targeted through the media and crudely portrayed as a mob. This negative image spread rapidly. Newspapers across the country blamed workers, and the Memorial Day Massacre was dubbed a Republic Steel riot. Paramount cameraman Orlando Lippert had filmed a complete recording of the massacre, save for 7 crucial seconds in which the violence had begun. This newsreel was immediately suppressed by Paramount for fear of rising riots. Controversy soon arose over who had started the violence, and Republic Steel, which had the media and authorities on their side, used newspapers to target workers as the instigators of the strike. By the second week of June, Paramount had released a newsreel. The truth was out, or so the workers thought. Instead of exposing police misconduct, the released film portrayed an edited encounter, one that displayed the actions of the police in a positive light. The Lafayette Committee, formed by the United States Senate to look into violations of free speech and labor, helped unveil the truth by investigating the massacre. They discovered that several exchanges had taken place between Republic Steel and the Chicago Police Department. In exchange for protection from strikers, Republic Steel had supplied the police with thousands of dollars worth of tear gas and guns, which were used in the strike. After analyzing the raw newsreel and hearing multiple testimonies, the committee concluded that the encounter should have been handled with less force from the police. The uncut newsreel, released in late June after the investigation, accurately depicted the incident and proved that the police were at fault. People were appalled at the violence, and their initial disdain at the workers changed to sympathy. Although corporations did not partake in this change of views, in 1941, Little Steel caved. Companies finally gave workers the union contract they had so strenuously pursued. More importantly, the massacre set many precedents for the use of visual evidence. Since the strike was one of the first times such a brutal encounter had been so thoroughly portrayed by the media, the public's perspective was easily swayed. The images of the massacre were accompanied by captions that favored the police, despite clearly showing mistreatment to workers. Because the public firmly believed what was written, they sided with Republic Steel and the policemen, displaying the strength of the media's influence. The uncut newsreel used in the Lafayette Committee investigation was publicized in newspapers as the first time in congressional history that a film had been used as evidence, exploring the use of photographic documentation as evidence.
It brought the media into discussions of these kinds of events. So it sort of modernized Congress. Suddenly you have evidence and you can see things. And in many cases, this is now seen as evidence.
This method preceded the common use of videos and photos as evidence in court today, setting up the notion that seeing is believing. The newsreel of the event also displayed the importance of concrete evidence of an event. In 2015, the Laquan McDonald shooting in Chicago sparked intense controversy as a police car camera recorded a teenage boy being shot 16 times by a policeman. The video was then used as evidence in court to press criminal charges against the police officer for homicide and get justice for Laquan. This showed the importance of having impartial evidence as well as the benefits of documenting events on film in order to use these accounts in the courtroom. Events such as these also prove the importance of police body and car cameras to document compromising situations. Currently, more than half of the states in the U.S., including Illinois, have proposed or passed legislation regarding police body and car cameras, while other states appear to be following this trend in the near future. The Memorial Day massacre also stemmed the flow of police brutality and labor for the coming generation. The newsreel that was released across the country, aside from Chicago, where it was censored, cautioned the public and law enforcement, helping control the amount of force used in confrontations with civilians.
In a sort of larger way, that kind of violence where the police would actually shoot workers in the back, that kind of violence stopped for like the next generation or so.
The newsreel was even used by the New York Police Department in order to train policemen of how not to act in volatile situations. The Memorial Day massacre became a warning, preventing extreme police brutality and labor in the coming generations. Caused by exchanges between the Chicago Police Force and Republic Steel, the Memorial Day massacre of 1937 was a violent encounter. Through photographic documentation of the massacre, which started out as a story as savage as any, turned into a powerful representation of the struggles and injustices workers faced in the 1930s. The newsreel and images of the event significantly reduced police brutality and labor and explored how photographic proof can be used to obtain justice and expose the truth.